Hello friends, this is your old girl Melanie Rose, here with a Daily Aspects special report, Retrograde Madness 2021. Now, as I've pointed out in a couple of videos, we are entering October this week with 6 planets and several asteroids in retrograde. Some of these planets have been in retrograde for a while. Some of them will come out of retrograde shortly. They all live on different ecliptics, so one body's motion is never aligned with another for very long. Retrograde refers to the apparent motion of a planetary body backward along its generally forward trek through the signs. Of course, none of these planets actually reverse course on their ecliptics. They all maintain a steady course and move in a clockwise direction around the sun. This illusion of retrograde is created by the fact that we are seeing their motion from Earth, a third planet that moves in a completely different speed, and they move along that, and as they move along their elliptical orbit around the sun, they occasionally appear to us to move backward, retrograde, and then forward or direct again. I hope that's clear as a bell. Also, retrograde occurs as a different set of circumstances for the different planetary bodies based on what they represent. It isn't simply a matter of things going in reverse or being less effective. Retrograde is often the phase during which shakeups and changes happen, which, while they're happening, may or may not seem unpleasant, but changes we make consciously are often for the better, and that gives us something to look forward to. So a couple of keywords I would like to focus on as we get into these retrogrades are illusion and change. Whoa! Very spooky, I know. And with that in mind, let's take a look at which planets we have on board before we discuss the implications. Mercury we have here. This is our planet for thoughts and communications. Not just thoughts and communications, but the things we use to communicate and the things that we use to travel. The post office is a mode by which we communicate, and it can be affected by Mercury retrograde, as can your cell phone. So, take care of your appliances and take care of your services. Yes, we will talk more about Mercury retrograde in a minute. Jupiter is your planet for growth and opportunities, expansion, big, positivity. Saturn is your planet for structure and stewardship. The structures we put in place so that we can steward our resources to grow and bring us abundance. Uranus here is your planetary representative for change making and free thinking, like free will. Neptune reminds us of our connection to spirit and our capacity to grow more connected to spirit. Now, Pluto here, being the last one out there, all the way out there on the edge of the solar system, is a planet of mystery and intuition, and also endings and beginnings. Now also, we have the asteroid Ceres at this party. Ceres is spelled Ceres, is about our capacity to mothering or nurturing of others. This is Palace. A Palace is about action and strategy. This is Lilith. And Lilith is about breaking free from harmful situations. And Chiron is Chiron, the wounded healer. And all of these are here on this list today because they're either about to go into retrograde or about to come out of retrograde, or we're in the middle of their retrograde. So we begin with the fastest planet and also the closest to the sun at all times, and that's Mercury. I've had a little bit to say about Mercury retrograde already, and at the risk of repeating myself, I just want to say, slow down and listen. I encourage all of us to listen closely so that we can get the messages that people are trying to send us. The messages say, listen, and then we hear it, and heed the warning. The warning is to listen. Got it? Okay. This is Mercury's third and final retrograde this year. Because of the planet's speed, it goes into retrograde frequently, approximately every 3 months for about 3 weeks. Mercury rules our intellect, so 3 weeks. Mercury rules our intellect, our communications, the different equipment, systems, and modes of communication like the post office and our cell phones. Our day-to-day relating with the whole world may become a little challenging and sticky if we aren't patient and paying attention. Cafe astrology tells us that delays and challenges are more probable with Mercury retrograde. This period is best used for reorganizing and reflecting. This retrograde lasts from September 27 through October 18, and Mercury will continue to be in Libra, where the Sun currently is, until the Sun will be there until about October 22. So we have about 3 weeks during which we would all do well to think less about what we want to say right now and to think more about our own life and how we'd like it to be, and to listen to what those around us are trying to say so that we can still use all of that information to make positive changes when we go direct again. The next planet of mention in retrograde madness is Jupiter. Jupiter now lives out beyond the asteroid belt with the big planets, and in fact Jupiter's whole vibe is bigger is better. This retrograde began in June this year, and I wonder, do you feel lucky? When Jupiter is in retrograde, good fortune is increased. Remember, the illusion that this planet is moving backward is just that, an illusion. This clever, tricky, generous player has the possibility to make big, sudden changes in our lives, often for the better. If we're going to bet on something, I would do it between now and October 22nd. Jupiter retrograde also comes with the message that those big changes we need to make for ourselves are important and require our attention. If we've been struggling with bad habits or addictions, this has been and still is a great time to identify those things out loud and set about putting our lucky growth vibes into the real priorities. Astrology King tells us you may be tested to make sure you are ready to receive the good fortune, new romance, or increased wealth you seek. Saturn's retrograde this year began in May and runs through October 10, so that'll be pretty soon. Astrology.com reports the likelihood of some political fanaticism during this time, which I believe has been on full display. Saturn is our planet of structure and stewardship, and when it goes into retrograde, it can feel as though the structures in place around us are too restrictive, or the growth we're trying to experience is met with resistance. If you've been feeling this sense of frustration very intensely and wanting to break out of existing structures, I encourage you to prioritize your own wellness at this time, and remember that Saturn goes direct again in less than 2 weeks, when we may begin to see some resolve that makes our foundations more settled. Shaky foundations. Uranus spends about 4 months in retrograde every year. The current Uranus retrograde began in August of this year and will not go direct again until January 18, 2022. Uranus is the planet for change and acting on one's free will. And in retrograde, we may find that we have found ourselves finding ourselves feeling more willing to follow the rules that maintain the structures around us. However, as Cafe Astrology tells us, Uranian energy is more challenging, and we can experience some tension until we acclimatize to the directional change. So, the underlying anxieties that come with change are likely to be showing up for us all, if we haven't already. It may be time to dust off some of those anxiety coping skills we learned in therapy, and in any case, it can't hurt to take a deep breath when we feel frustrated by the impulse to change, as it is balanced by the desire not to change. I'll make a little Libra scales for balance here. Next we have Neptune. Neptune's retrograde began in June of this year and will go direct the first day of December. So as you can see, this planet spends roughly half the year in retrograde. Neptune reminds us of our connection to spirit, and in retrograde we may have found ourselves searching for some better ways to feel that connection and to channel spirit's influence in our lives. This year especially, because Neptune is in its home sign of Pisces. I gotta remember how to make that. There we go. That's not right. That's Pisces. We may have found ourselves diving into dream work and other forms of divination like tarot and astrology at this time. These deep dives into the intuition are really capable of bringing us home to ourselves and our relationship to the divine, or just the really big, when Neptune goes direct again in December. Look for the epiphanies to begin bubbling up between now and then. Pluto's retrograde is almost over. It began in April this year, and it will go direct in just over a week on October 6th. Pluto is a planet of mystery and depth, so the changes it brings about in our lives are often very subtle. When Pluto is in retrograde, however, we get a little more clarity in regards to those endings and beginnings. Things may not seem so mysterious, or perhaps we are simply more comfortable plumbing the depths of emotion and intuition. Whatever it is you've been working on this year in terms of bringing one thing to an end and beginning something new, I hope you have put the necessary plans in place by now or within the next week. I'd hate for you to become stuck in a rut when Pluto's invitation for you to see these hard-won changes clearly for what they are expires. Take advantage. of the clarity. Because again, this is like an information finding mission, so that when Pluto goes direct again, you'll have the information at hand to make the changes that Pluto can help you make. Those are the planets, and I want to make a note about speed. The speed of the planets from fastest to slowest is the same as the order of the planets starting closest to the Sun and moving outward. So Mercury's transits and retrogrades happen relatively very quickly, and the further out we move from the Sun, the more time the planets take to transit. This is why Mercury's aspects with natal planets normally take 1 day, while Mars aspects take 4. And it's also why Mars retrograde takes longer than Mercury. Its orbit around the Sun is much longer, and from the Earth's perspective, it simply moves more slowly through the sky. The asteroids in retrograde I will mention as briefly as possible. There's an asteroid belt in orbit around our Sun between the ecliptics of Mars and Jupiter. Not all of the asteroids have been named or assigned astrological characteristics, but there are about 16 that we keep an eye on. Ceres retrograde begins on October 11th, and it goes through March of 22. Ceres is the great mother of the zodiac. It covers all notions of mothering and nurture in our lives. When Ceres goes retrograde, we're given an opportunity to reconsider where we put that energy, to loosen attachments so that some of our babies can fly. It's also important during this retrograde to guard against an impulse to reject or only selectively receive the love and nurture that others are sending our way. So reconsider and receive. The asteroid Pallas began its retrograde in July and goes direct again on November 17. Pallas is near and dear to my heart, as she is the feminine deity of war and strategy. That is to say, the battles we engage in for a purpose and with a plan. I see her as a balance to the Mars god of war energy that rules my sun sign, Aries. Pallas in retrograde says, let's not fight and plan, let's just go with the flow. There's an emphasis here on intuitive approaches like dream work, energy work, and tarot. Use these things and think of this intuition gathering as an information gathering mission. Take notes and use them, because when Pallas goes direct again, you'll be able to create a plan of action. I'm going to call this recon for the plan. Asteroid Lilith here, not to be confused with Dark Moon Lilith, an astrological subject for a whole other video. Asteroid Lilith went retrograde in August and will return direct again on November 27. The asteroid was not specifically named for the Lilith of myth and legend, but it has been interpreted as such, being the body that reminds us of our capacity to break free from circumstances that degrade and humiliate us, and that often what feels like complete exile is far preferable to the crap we have left behind. So while in retrograde, we may have found ourselves more willing to put up with some crap we normally wouldn't, or perhaps this is more of a reflective mode where we build the case that eventually shows us what we need to move on. For those of us who have been putting up with more crap lately, mark your calendars. The end of November is not that far off, and we want to be ready to make that change. Through November 27, take no crap. Before or after, okay? But especially after and before. Just don't take any crap. There are a couple of other asteroid retrogrades in effect right now, but the one I most want to focus on is Chiron. Chiron went retrograde in July and will go direct again at the end of December. 7/21 through 12/21. Chiron is often characterized as the wounded healer. Many of us have structured our lives as being centered around healing others because of the healing we ourselves require. And this is appropriate because when we figure out how to gain healing for ourselves, the next logical thing to do is to hand off that knowledge and information to the next struggling person we meet. In retrograde, we may be finding it difficult to know what will work to heal us at this time. We may also witness this as a time when we struggle to make positive changes for our physical and mental well-being. Understand that there are many, many paths to better well-being, and practicing or availing ourselves of any of them is likely to bring us at least some relief while we wait for this retrograde to be over. In the meantime, remain cautious of your health and do your best not to be exposed to any further illnesses or injuries. And for that, folks, I'm just going to draw a little mask. Protect yourself. And that's it. This has been a Daily Aspect Special Report, Retrograde Madness 2021. A worldwide time of change and transformation in the personal and social spheres. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I'd be interested to hear how these retrogrades may have occurred for you all in your lives. So if you feel like leaving a comment below, please do. Please like my video and subscribe to the Old Girl channel if you haven't already. I'll see you very soon for more Daily Aspect.